Okay, we are continuing with our lesson on YouTube. The last topic we did was on stock exchange. You remember I told you stock exchange is an aspect of financial management. And if you look at your syllabus in business management, financial management is supposed to be taught in Form 3 or Year 3. I gave you the reason why we were treating stock exchange. We said when we were talking about companies, we learned that the public companies can buy shares at the stock, they sell shares at the stock market. Individuals who buy shares can go and sell the shares there, and so forth. So if you have learned that, then there was the need for us to learn about what stock exchange is. Now, another aspect of financial management is what we are going to learn today. And we are going to look at sources of business finance. Sources of business finance. That is what we are looking at today. And what are we going to learn? The outline. By the time we finish with the sources of business finance, you should be able to tell me what finance is, so the meaning of finance. They will also look at the meaning of sources of finance. When you say sources of finance, what are we talking about? Then why do we even need finance? Why do we need finance? Then we also look at the classifications of finance. And under that one, we look at the short term, medium term, long term, and then as one aspect of it, then we also look at another aspect as internal and external. So that is what we'll be looking at. So now, what is finance? When you say finance, what are we talking about? If you're a businessman, you need money. And in business, that is what you call funds. So when you say finance, you see, that money must be acquired from somewhere. And when you acquire the money, you should be able to manage the money well so that you'll be able to achieve your objective, your business objective, the purpose for which you established the business. Certainly, you had profit motive. So the process of acquiring funds and managing the funds, so you acquire the funds, you manage the funds, that is what you call finance. So finance is the process of acquiring funds, getting the needed funds. And then when you have acquired the funds, there will be the need for proper management of the fund so that you'll be able to achieve your objective. That is all that finance is about. Let's move to our next topic. That is, why do we need finance? Why? Why do we need finance? Very simple. Now, if you are a start-up business, that means you are starting your business. You need money. You need funds. Why do you need the funds? Number one, you need funds to be able to buy assets, fixed assets. You should have funds to be able to acquire the assets, your machines, any other thing, your fixtures, any other thing. You need funds, equipment. You need funds to acquire, to buy machines. You need funds to buy your raw materials. So when you are starting, so I said, if you are a startup, you are starting the business for the first time, you have to buy assets. You have to pay for rent. You go and to somebody and the person leases his building to you. You have to pay for rent. You need funds to pay. You have to buy raw materials. You need funds to buy the raw materials. Or you need to pay your suppliers, the same thing. Because if you are buying the raw materials from your suppliers, you need to pay them. So you need funds to pay. Now when you are selling your goods, people should get to know of the goods. So you have to advertise. You need money to be able to go to the radio stations, to be able to go to the FM stations, to be able to go to the television stations. You pay money for your product to be made known to people. So that is the first thing. The second one has got to do with now. One of the objectives of every business is to expand, and you need funds to be able to expand. You need additional assets. So for expansion, more funds will be needed to buy additional assets. You need money. When you make profit, you can retain the profit. You can go for loan to expand the business. So funds are needed for business expansion. Then the third and the last one here is that in the course of running the business, you need funds. So running the business, or you need funds to pay your day-to-day expenses. What are those things? You have to pay people who are working for you. You pay wages. You pay salaries. You need to purchase raw materials. As for the raw materials, once you started the business, you have to. The initial raw materials. When you are through, you are producing, you have to buy raw materials. You need funds. You have to pay bills, electricity bill. You have to pay all other bills. You need funds. You need funds to be able to do repairs. So you need funds for these reasons. So if you are talking about why we need funds, these are the reasons why we need funds or finance. The next thing is sources of, so we are now coming to the topic, sources of business finance. What does it mean to say sources of business finance? Now, when you say sources, you remember when you were in primary school, you learned about sources of water. And there was one key word that came to your mind. That means where. Where do you get water? So you mentioned various sources. If I ask you to mention, you'll be able to tell me where. But here we are not talking about sources of water. We are looking at sources of finance. We know what finance is now. We know what is meant by funds. So where does the businessman get the needed money for business operations? So when you say sources of finance, you are looking at the various means. You are looking at the various avenues where the businessman or where money could be made available for business operations. That is all that we are looking at. So this topic, sources of business finance, we are looking at if you are a businessman. Now, if you want to become a businessman now, after school, you want to enter into business. The question, where do you get the needed money, the needed funds to start the business? Your capital, where are you going to get the money from? When you start the business, where are you going to get the money to run the business effectively? So I said, when you say sources of finance, you are looking at the various means. You are looking at the various avenues by which money, and that's the funds, could be made available for business operations. So where is a businessman going to get the needed money, the needed funds for business operations? So that is for that one. So now, for now, if after this lesson, you should be able to know where businessmen can acquire or can get funds, can get money for their business operations. Our next thing we are now going to look at is the classifications of the sources of finance. We are going to put them into groups. The first part of it, now, when you go for these sources, they have to be repaid. You have to pay back. Now, the period that it is going to take for you to repay, some people will use that one to do the classification. So the first aspect is that the classification can be done according to the period of repayment. In other words, if you went for loan, how long did the bank manager give you to repay the loan together with the interest? He might have given you 1 year. He might have given you less than 1 year. He might have given you 10 years. So when they classify it according to the period for the repayment, then they will say we have short-term source, we have medium-term source, and we have long-term source. So now the onus is on us to know when we say a particular source is short-term, what does that mean? What is the period, the range? When are you supposed to repay? When you say it is medium term, what is the period? When you say it is long term, what is the period? Now when you say a particular source is a short-term source of finance, it means that the period for repayment does not exceed 1 year. I repeat, when you say a particular source is short-term, it means the period for repayment does not exceed 1 year. It doesn't exceed 1 year. So, for example, if you went for loan and the bank manager said this loan must be paid within 6 months, that means it does not exceed 1 year. So you say it is a short-term source of finance in your business. If the bank manager said that you are supposed to pay it within 9 months, it means it does not exceed 1 year, so it is short term. If you went for bank overdraft, and we shall learn about what it means, and you are supposed to repay it within 1 month, it means it doesn't exceed 1 year, so it is short term. If you went to somebody to buy goods on credit, and the person gave you 1 month to pay, 2 weeks to pay, 3 months to pay, it means it is short term. It means the period for the repayment does not exceed 1 year. Then when they say medium, middle, so medium means there is short and there is long. So in between the short and then the long, that is the medium. And the medium term source of finance, the time for the repayment spans, that means the period, spans between 1 and 5 years. So if you went for loan and the bank manager said that this loan, you are supposed to repay the loan and its interest within 2 years, that means it is long, it is medium term. 3 years, medium term. 4 years, medium term. Up to 5 years. If you exceed 5 years, then, or from 5 years, then it means that that will be long-term source. So that is for that one. So I said short term, the period does not exceed 1 year. Medium term, it lasts between 1 and 5 years, or it spans between 1 and 5 years. The long term spans a period not less than 5 years. And it can be 10 years, it can be 20 years, it can be 30 years. It can be any number of years, and it exceeds 5 years. So that is for that one. Then the classification, so that is the A. When you classify it according to the period. Then the B, when you classify according to where the funds was generated, where you got the funds, where you got it. Did you get it within the business whilst you were operating? For example, you were operating and you made profit. When you made a profit, you decided to retain the profit into the business. You decided to use the profit to expand your business. That means you had that source as a result of business operation. So it means that it becomes internal source. But if you went to a bank for loan, that means it is outside business operation. If you went to bank for bank overdraft, that means it is outside business operation. If you went to somebody and the person sold the goods to you on credit, that is trade credit, it means it is outside the business, and that will be external. So when you are looking at it according to where it was generated, then you can have internal source and then external source. So ladies and gentlemen, we shall end this one here and then continue from we will be picking the various sources. We will pick short-term source and we look at examples of short-term source. We pick medium-term source. We look at the examples of medium-term source. We pick long-term source, and we look at the examples of long-term sources. So for now, we know what finance is. We said finance, we are looking at the process of acquiring funds and managing the funds. You have to manage the inflow and then the outflow of funds. Then we have also looked at the sources as where the various, we use 3 keywords. We look at avenues, we look at the means, we look at where you can get money to operate your business. Then we look at the why we need it. When you are starting a business, you need it for particular purposes. If you want to expand, you need it for particular purposes. Then if you are running the business, day-to-day expenses, you need funds for that one too. Then we came to the classification. We classified it into 2. First, when you are looking at it from the period where you are going to make repayment, and then where the money, so we look at the period when you are going to do the repayment, a period when you are going to do the repayment, and then where the money was generated, whether within or without. Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of our subtopic of sources of finance. We shall continue in our next video. Till we meet again, it's bye-bye.